much for meeting with me for this interview. I'm going to ask you some questions about swing music and dance, its culture, and its history. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. To begin, can you please describe some of your personal experience with swing dance and swing music? How did it all start for you?
I've been swing dancing now for about 4 years. I started my freshman year here at FSU, saw a flyer, went to try it out, fell in love, obviously. I'm now the president of the Swing Dance Club, and I fall more in love with swing dancing every day.
How would you describe the instrumentation and rhythms of the swing music that you dance to? What is it in the music that moves you?
What moves me is definitely the steady rhythm and solo instrumentation. That's a part of a lot of swing music. The steady beat just really drives home the style of the song and how I move my body in time to the music. And then the solos from different instrumentalists really bring out the more playful side of swing, I think. Really lets you play around and improvise and just be a little weird, which is always a fun part of swing dancing for me.
Cool, very cool. Have you ever taken any classes or done any personal research about the history and roots of swing and jazz music and how it began? And if so, what have you learned?
I wrote a paper in my music history 2 class about the history of the Savoy Ballroom, which was the largest ballroom in Harlem, New York, and was the place to dance back in the 1920s and 30s. And it was kind of the birthplace of Lindy Hop. There's a lot of speculation onto like the specific origins, but it definitely had its start in Harlem. Basically came around in the late 1920s, early 1930s, has its roots in a lot of African American dances, things like the cakewalk in Charleston, were all kind of mushed together into Lindy Hop, but it slowly formed into more of what we know today in the mid to late 1930s. There are a lot of influential dancers like Frankie Manning who really brought Lindy Hop to the forefront, not only in the Savoy and other ballrooms, but in TV and movies. And basically, Lindy Hop was the dance to know, and definitely led the way for the social dance movement out of the 1930s and beyond.
Wow, that's very cool. I'm sure you're aware that swing is danced all across the globe outside of America, in places such as Europe and the United Kingdom, Cambodia, France, Japan, and Ireland. Is this exciting to you? How does this make you feel, and where else can you find it?
That makes me so excited. I have such a strong passion for swing dance, and it's great to know that people from across the globe also feel that way. It's kind of cheesy, but when they say, like, music is universal language, blah, blah, blah. Like, Lindy Hop also can be that, as long as you have access to the music and can learn the steps, anyone can do it. As far as other places, South Korea is a really big hotspot for Lindy Hop right now. And then Sweden is also another big hub. There's a massive dance camp called Harang that happens for a month every summer.
Wow.
So the Swedes like Lindy.
Yeah. How do you think other cultures around the world interpret swing music and dance? And from where do you think they draw their influences?
I don't know. I think everyone kind of draws their influences from like the original people, like I mentioned before, Frankie Manning and Don Hampton. We're all just trying to keep that alive in a way, and it's definitely become more modernized because there's not much evidence of like video evidence that we can really look back on.
Right.
But while they were still alive, they were going to conferences and talking and trying to spread their knowledge to other people. So I think we're all just trying to keep that essence. But I don't know. I feel like America is definitely the hub for Lindy Hop, and a lot of other countries look on us. They hire our instructors to go places and teach. So I think America, and then France and Spain, actually. Spain and Italy have a lot of teachers coming out of there that are becoming very popular and spreading Lindy Hop throughout.
Oh, yeah. Very cool. Why do you think swing music and dance is still so popular today? And what do you think keeps it alive?
I think it's a mix of the music and just the movement. I feel like partner dancing is something that a lot of people are kind of like weird about. Because when they think of partner dancing, they think of like ballroom and it's very upright and classy and blah blah blah. But then you find out about Lindy Hop and you're like, oh, that looks like a lot of fun. Not saying that ballroom isn't fun. I love ballroom, but like people are having such fun when they dance Lindy Hop, and I think it's so contagious, especially from my experience within the swing dance club. Even people who only come like one time, like kind of catch that vibe a little bit, you know. And it's hard to watch it, not have a smile on your face, and not want to try it, like her, not stomp your foot to the rhythm of the music.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think it's addicting, and the community that's come out of swing dancing is also a big like draw. Swing dancing is a big family, and we all love and support each other and just want to dance. And I think it's just so inviting.
I love that. It says in your bio that you study music therapy.
I do.
Has there been any overlap between swing topics and your clients? Please explain.
Definitely with older adults. A lot of music therapy techniques used for older adults involves memory recall. So they all love the classic like jazz standards that come up a lot in swing music. And so many times, we'll ask them questions about the music and they'll be like, oh, when I was your age, I was out on the dance floor, tearing it up. Like I won some competition. Like I was dancing at the American Legion the other week and I was talking about this woman who's 98 years old. And she's telling me how she won the Georgia State Jitterbug competition back in the day.
Wow.
And it's just like, there's so much crossover, especially with this older population now, because they're the people who were doing this dance.
Yeah.
Like when it was first coming about. So it definitely comes up a lot, I'd say.
Can you please describe some of the other culture associated with swing music and dance?
The other culture. Can you explain that a little bit more? I'm so sorry.
So consider their traditional music and their traditional dance. How do you think they not draw influences, but how do you think their own culture affects how they view and interpret swing music and dance?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll rewrite it a little bit.
No, that's so fine. I never really thought about that before, because I think I'm just so absorbed in our American culture that I've never really had to think about it. But I maybe think that it's a little bit harder for them to grasp its origins. Maybe not the dance itself, like picking up the steps and doing all that stuff is different, but like this dance comes from the African American community, and like so often people forget that, and I think even us in the States do forget where it came from, because now it's very whitewashed to be honest. So I'd say dance wise and music wise, I don't think it's too difficult, because everyone streams everything online now, and so everyone's exposed to so many different types of music that I don't think that's really an issue. But I would say the origins of it and kind of understanding that like this dance kind of came out of the love of the African American community, like in the middle of the Great Depression. Like dancing was the one thing that they could do to have a good time for like no money. So everyone was doing it, and it created such a sense of community that I think is slowly coming about again now, as Lindy Hop becomes more popular. But
what role do you think the dance plays in how an audience perceives swing music?
Oh, I think it plays a huge rolling it. Everyone will say they like swing music. They're like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, like I love to listen to that. But do they really? No. But once they see what's associated with it, I think it becomes so much cooler.
Yeah.
It becomes, music is already such like a great outlet for self-expression, but when you add dance to that as well, it just becomes this like super powerful like orb of greatness. And I think it adds a whole nother level of appreciation for the art, honestly. Yeah.
How has swing music changed in terms of instrumentation, rhythms, and lyrics, and adapted over the years to the new era of today's music in America, as well as in other countries?
Swing music now is less big bandy and more like just small ensembles, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause like back in the day, big bands were massive, and but they also needed to fill like a whole ballroom, which was also
Yeah.
massive. But now it's definitely, I think, shrinked in size, and there's a difference between like recordings of music and actually like music that's played live, because when you're playing for dancers, you can't have a song that's 8 minutes. Like that's tiring, and everyone's gonna be mad that you're doing that. But other than that, I really don't think it's changed that much in that like new styles have come about. I think it's more just emulating the past
Mm-hmm.
and trying to like make covers of old songs that are like have better sound quality and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also groups like Postmodern Jukebox who
Yeah.
make our modern music into jazz pieces. So there's also that side of it too.
Yeah. Very cool. And so with, what was the name of the band you just named?
Postmodern Jukebox.
Postmodern Jukebox. So how do you think swing dance has adapted to the new style of this sort of swing music and just in today?
I mean, swing dance in general is a very adaptive dance.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on just like the style of song that you hear, dancers will completely change how they like their stance, how they present themselves, how they move their body. But I think more modern swing music is kind of not like techno, but it can be kind of like club-y a little bit, in its beat. So it kind of makes our movement more like jumpy in a way. But there's just so many styles of swing that it's hard to like say that it's only one way. That's not a very good answer, but that's what I'm going to give you.
That is a wonderful answer. And I know that some people dance to music that is not necessarily swing, but is swingable. Do you think this music is appropriate for swing dancing or disrespectful to its roots?
I believe both answers. I don't think it's necessarily disrespectful. I mean, I don't think the founders of Lindy Hop would like roll in their graves or anything, because dancing changes with the time, and you just kind of have to go with the flow. I mean, you're still dancing the dance. You're still, living, like letting its legacy live on in that sense. I don't personally think there's anything wrong with like modern music or swingable songs. But would I want to listen to a whole night of swingable songs? Not really. Thrown in here and there, I don't mind. But that's just me.
Yeah. I also understand that Lindy Hop is considered the first and most popular swing dance, but I know it's not the only one. What other styles of dance are done to swing music?
Here we go. Lindy Hop is the OG swing dance. There is Charleston, which is another section of it. There is Balboa, which was started out in California. Then you have like regular East Coast, which is like the ballroom side of things, and there's West Coast, which is just more smoother style. There's SoCal, which is like a toned down Lindy Hop that's smoother. There's Jitterbug. There's St. Louis Shag, Collegiate Shag. Oh, there's so many. I'm blanking on them. But there's a whole list of different swing dances depending on where you go in the country, which makes it honestly very accessible. So.
Do you think those different types of dances, how can I phrase it? Do you think let's see where I'm going with this. This is an off my head question.
That's okay.
Do you think those dance styles are they all done to the same swing music, or can they be done to other styles of swing
Oh, they
music?
can definitely be done to other styles. Like West Coast is done to pretty much all modern music.
Okay.
Like Jitterbug and like Shag and stuff. Shag is more like rockabilly in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Same for Jitterbug. Like Jitterbug is like 1950s style, like really up-tempo music. So yeah, there's definitely a wide variety of like music styles that can be associated with these dances.
Mm-hmm. Great. And when you're dancing, does the speed of the music and the rhythms affect how you dance?
Oh, of course. Yeah. The faster the music gets, the lazier I want to be because I get tired. But it also like, if music's really fast, you're not going to be taking wider steps or getting as far away from your partner, because then, you know, it's easier to get hurt because the music's so fast that you're like flinging each other around, and that can lead to something bad. But also like conserving energy is a thing. And then depending on the speed of the music or the style, like your footwork will change, or like how you step, or you know how you like your upper body, or you know how tense you are, or like chill you are. It all is dependent on tempo and style.
And how about the any other aspects of the music? For instance, the instrumentation, or the dynamics, or just the general tone of the song. Does that make you want to dance in a different way?
Yeah, that'll definitely affect like my affect and my presentation. So if the music's really loud, like I'll be like big and boisterous with my movement, but if it gets just soft, maybe I'll like collapse into myself a little bit, or like if my partner's really wild, I'll like get on the floor. I don't know. Like, yeah, I definitely changed how I present myself in those like aspects, and also like, the rhythmic stuff too, like what moves I do and like what parts of my vocabulary that I utilize.
Yeah.
It all comes into play.
Cool. Very cool. And going off that, so obviously dancers can adapt how they dance based on the music, but while live, do musicians of a band ever adapt the music to the dancers? For example, lengthening solos or drawing out notes or breaks?
I'd say so. I've personally never played in a swing band before, but from what I've observed, like if there's a term that the Savoy Ballroom would use a lot, like how hot is the room? So it's like how like not wild, but like how into it everyone is, you know, like how much energy's in the room. So if a room's like really hot, like I've seen band leaders be like, you know, one more time, like keep going or do something, and they would definitely do that back in the day in the Savoy. There's a really nice relationship between the dancers and the musicians. Like the musicians were playing for the dancers, like they were feeding off the energy of the dancers, and the dancers were taking what the musicians were giving them and interpreting it in these like really cool ways, and it was just like this big ebb and flow. And while it's definitely not as intense, I'd say it's definitely still a thing today.
Oh, very cool. And what would you say are some of the differences? Today we can now DJ the music instead of having live bands. How do you think those differences help or affect the dance and music?
Yeah, I mean, DJ music is great, but
Mhm.
there's definitely a different energy or aura from the room and the dancers when there's live band. Like
Yeah.
everyone is just so much more energetic and hype and like thankful for being there because
Mhm.
you know the band is doing this for us and we want to give it back to them by having
Mhm.
a good time and showing them how much we are enjoying their music.
Yeah.
So I definitely say the room is more alive when there's live music.
Oh. And also, I know that competitions have been very important in the swing community. Are these competitions primarily in America, or do they happen around the world? And how have they changed over time?
Most of the competitions that I know of personally are in the U.S.,
Mhm.
but I know there's things like the European Swing Dance Championships, which covers all of Europe, which is a massive competition,
Mhm.
and different events will have like their own mini competitions. But the European one is the big one that I know of over there, and then the International Lindy Hop Championships are hosted here in the U.S., and that's like the mama swing dance competitions. But like I said, like events around the country will have their own mini ones. But how they've changed, I'm not really sure, except in kind of the language that we use to represent them. So like, for instance, there's competitions called Jack and Jill, which is kind of gender biased in a way. And Lindy Hop and the swing community in general is very like gender fluid. Like women can be leads, men can be follows, and we're slowly switching our wording of those competitions to make it more inclusive. So I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I know that they've been changing the Jack and Jill phrase in a lot of different areas. But competitions are just the way that like swing instructors become popular. You go to competitions, you win, or you do really well in a video because everything's recorded now and put online, and YouTube videos are shared over social media like crazy. So you compete at a competition, you do well, you're seen, people say, oh, we would love for them to come teach for us. So you get hired, you go teach, and then it's just like this cycle. So competitions are really the way that teachers become popular and kids travel the world.
Wow, that is really cool. How did you think swing music and dance spread to different cultures and to different countries around the world? Did certain events such as World War II help expand its popularity or shrink its popularity?
Yeah. You know, I haven't done a lot of research on that, and I'm not the most well versed in that area.
Okay.
But I know Lindy Hop, what we do, kind of died out post World War II and kind of moved on to other social dances. But during the World War II era, like, not propaganda necessarily, but basically propaganda videos were filmed a lot, and swing music and dancing was used in so many of them. So those got a lot of coverage and like got swing dancing out. So that might have been one way, but I'm honestly not sure how. Well, unless like I know jazz music in a lot of places was kind of like seen as like the devil's music, you know, like pretty bad, and so that kind of made it enticing in a way to like go against the rules and rebel.
Yeah.
So that could have been a way, like people found jazz recordings and started listening and like somehow found videos or footage. People traveled. I'm really not sure, but it got around, and look at it now, it's global. So
yeah, it is. It's very, very exciting. And actually, starting in the 1930s and 40s, there were rebellious swing musicians and dancers known as the swing hyenas or the swing kids, and they took interest in the American swing and dance, the whole style, but these kids were found in areas. They were found in areas of Germany and Hamburg and Berlin, but they were exposed to harassment and persecution by the Gestapo, and some were even arrested. And so, do you think the swing genre was considered this rebellious in its beginnings in America, and how do you think so?
I actually just learned about that the other day, so that's very funny. I don't think swing was rebellious. in the beginning, as far as like American standards go. It was kind of like the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Like everyone, like I said, it was started kind of in like the midst of the Great Depression, and dancing was a way for everyone to like, have an outlet, and also it was cheap, so everyone was doing it. But like coming up with new moves and doing all that stuff was like the cool thing to do. And then, so I don't really think it was rebellious in a way, but yeah.
Yeah. So where in the world would you like to go to experience other swing dance and music, and which countries? And have you been to other countries or any states even?
I've traveled a lot within the southeast here in the United States, so I've done a lot of dancing here in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana. I've danced back home in St. Louis, Missouri, but I'd love to go elsewhere. Oh my gosh. Swing dancing in France is massive, and there's so many great instructors who live in France. I would love to go there. Harangue, the camp that I mentioned earlier in Sweden, is like the place to go. I would love to go there, and same with South Korea. Like just travel and swing dance. That sounds like the best thing I could possibly do.
Yeah. How do you think if you did have the opportunity to visit these different countries and these different cultures, how do you think their take of the swing dance and music would have an effect on you?
I think it would make me more appreciative of it. I think just the fact that like I have a way to communicate with these people and without like using words is wild.
Yeah.
And we just kind of get each other. No, but I think it'd be a lot of fun to just go out and meet some new people from another culture and just have this thing in common.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. And finally, do you think swing music and dance will have a place in the future? And would you hope it stays more true to its roots, or would you like to see it evolve even more? Where do you think it'll go? Or where do you hope it will go?
I think Lindy Hop will stay true to its roots. There's such a big push for like research and like just continuation of like the original people who like made this dance happen. But I do think that there will be plenty of like offshoots of Lindy Hop that will just start and like become their own little category under the swing umbrella. But I sure hope that Lindy Hop stays around. It would make me so sad if it just disappeared. But I think the community now is more passionate than ever in keeping this dance going, and it's growing every day. So I have no doubt that Lindy Hop will keep on keeping on.
Do you think it's easier for it to be in today's time? Do you think it's easier for more people to hear about swing dance and swing music than it was when it first began?
Yeah, I do. Especially from social media.
Yeah.
Everyone's sharing everything, and I know that like just from me sharing videos on Facebook, like I've had friends message me and be like, "What is this? Like, where can I find this? Like, I would love to learn." So I think it's really easy for this to spread and become more of a mainstream thing. Will it? I don't know. People are so weird about partner dancing, but I think it's definitely possible.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. You gave very wonderful answers.
Thank you for asking me to do this.
Of course, I loved learning about you and about swing dance and music. I learned a lot from you, and I really appreciate it.
Of course,
And
anytime.
yeah, thank you very much, Thalia.